All right, I actually forgot, but I have a doctor's appointment, so there's more time on the road. So recorded earlier this morning, coming back from CrossFit. Was going on a bit of a mini rant about just people like trolling on the internet and stuff, and how that's a little bit annoying. Kind of the nature of what's going to happen though with content creation. It's like it's inevitable. A lot of people don't know this, but I used to have, like, kind of before TikTok and stuff was more popular, I had an Instagram account that I used for like modified cars, and got the same kind of thing, right? Like, you have people that are just like completely volatile when it comes to responding to stuff on the internet. So the ironic part was that when I got home from CrossFit this morning and I was looking at social media, I had more people that were getting more ridiculous about the comments and stuff. So like one person was basically suggesting that like I've never programmed before kind of thing. They like, reposted the tweet with a comment being like, this person can't think outside of like their small tiny scope or something. And I'm like, oh man, like, okay, so it's weird because like what? You have someone attacking you, and the answer is like, you're supposed to just ignore this stuff. Like, that's what you do. But it also leaves a bad taste in my mouth just to have someone who's like blatantly putting out kind of like bull crap about me. And then what? Like, do I need to go defend myself to this person that I don't even know or give a crap about? Like, no. But at the same time, like, I'm like just against the fact that they are, like, I'm posting opinions about things and they're trying to make like a factual statement that's incorrect. Like, if my preference for something cannot be factually incorrect, I'm telling you this is my preference and that's why. If you disagree with that's totally cool. You're allowed to and you're welcome to. But you can't say that my opinion is incorrect or like my preference is incorrect. Like, that doesn't make sense. So anyway, I just thought it was very ironic that I had significantly more. It was almost like, I don't know, not quite like a 10x on people being ridiculous, but like somewhere between 2 and 5x, I would say. Just a lot of stuff to respond to. I had people saying like, oh, this guy didn't respond to me, so like, one guy was saying like, I'm concerned because he didn't reply to me. And I'm like, dude, there was like hundreds of comments on this thread. Like, what do you want me to do? But anyway, enough about that. Going to the doctors. They're going to tell me I'm dead. No, this is a sort of like a physical, just an annual thing. But I booked it like 2 months ago. So it's kind of crappy. But I had to duck out of a meeting that I really wanted to be at. So thank you, Copilot. I will be using the Copilot notes to catch up on that. It's actually super awesome. I don't use it enough, but it's like, we've had conversations at work before where we're like, oh man, like in that meeting, like I could have swore someone was talking about whatever, and then we can go ask the Copilot notes and it jumps you to the spot in the meeting where they're talking about it. It's crazy. And no, this is not like a sales pitch for Copilot. They don't give me money for that, so but it's super cool, so I'm going to use that when I get back. And I figured I'd talk a little bit about Brand Ghost. I was going to talk about Brand Ghost tomorrow, but I forgot that I have this drive, and I'll do another video on the drive back. Like, why not? Like I said, I like doing this when I'm driving because I don't like driving and doing nothing, so I might as well talk about fun stuff, right? So Brand Ghost, where we're at, I've talked about this before, we're trying to get our onboarding kind of brought up to par with where we want it to be at. Some of the interesting conversations there are like, this person's not going anywhere. I hope that sounds good on the camera because it sounds good in here. But for onboarding, okay, let's talk about this. So this is going to be a little bit zoomed out from some of the software engineering concepts, but more of like a product fit, like onboarding, usability kind of thing. But I think this is super important because sometimes I think for a lot of software engineers and software developers, we don't get to talk about this stuff a lot. It's kind of like depending on your company, your team and stuff like that's someone else's problem. They have to go figure it out. But before Microsoft, and like especially while the company I worked at before, Magnet Forensics, especially while it was small, like this is stuff we had to think about all the time. It's only as the company grew and we had more dedicated, specialized roles that we had people to help with this. So one of the things that we're looking at right now is like with Brand Ghost, the idea is that we want people to be able to, like our core functionality is to be able to schedule content on like a recurring basis. So you don't schedule it for specific dates. You talk about a cadence that you want to be posting content. And then we automatically post that content for you at the cadence that you have across all of the platforms that you want to have hooked up to it. So that's the idea. Okay, so when we onboard, like we have to figure out what it means to be successful, right? And it's kind of like a meta philosophical thing, like what does it mean to be successful? And that's kind of hard to answer, but we have some things that make it very obvious that it's not successful. So for example, if someone registers an account and they don't do anything else on the platform, that's probably not successful, right? And we see that that's currently the biggest drop off that we can measure is like someone will register an account and then they just don't do anything with it. But there could be a million reasons why that happens. Like it's impossible for us to know all of them. But if we can start quantifying them and categorizing them, then we can figure out where we should put more attention to. So I've talked about this onboarding flow that we have, and we made it, and then it had a bug in it so that the last few people that had been onboarding, they didn't get exposed to it, which sucks because we were like, we can't measure. But the goal of that onboarding was basically to say, look, we will guide you through making your first, we call them topic streams. So making your first topic stream, that way you can get a social account connected. That's a pretty big milestone in onboarding is you've connected to LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. You've connected to something because that's a barrier. If people are like, oh man, like I don't know how to connect, or, you know, do I trust this platform? Like that's a barrier for sure for people to get onboarded. So that's one part. The fact that we can make a topic stream isn't very obvious to people. So it's a bit of a concept to think about because a lot of people don't post content in this way consciously, right? They might be doing it manually. They might not even realize that they could be thinking about posting content this way. So we're trying to guide people into doing it, and it's something they might not really understand yet. So basically our onboarding is geared to get people creating a topic stream with one piece of content and have social accounts connected. And that way they leave onboarding and basically they have something that will start posting for them. Now they should add more content and stuff like that. There's safety mechanisms in place so it doesn't spam, but like that would be successful, right? They have a topic stream with content that will start generating posts. Great. Okay, so that's cool, and we've been trying to, that's kind of the first iteration of this onboarding flow that we talked about, but even within that, there's some stuff that we're not happy with it. Like, we're already predicting where people are going to have trouble based on some of the other feedback we've had from users that are making topic streams. So, to give you an example, a topic stream right now it has a specific post type that you'll need to use. And what I mean by that is like a topic stream can be one of video posts, picture posts, text posts, like that category of post exists for the whole topic stream. But like, why? Like why is that a requirement? What if someone just wants to say, I have a bunch of content I want to post at these times, and like, this one's a picture post, this one's a video post. That's how I want to do it. Pardon me. I don't have a good way to mute this and cough. So we're already looking at this going, look, like it's confusing that people have to pick a type. But the problem is that we've designed some of the back end that has this assumption that we will always know the type. So now it's kind of weird, and it's like, it's a perfect conversation to have, like, kind of like in startup mode, where you're thinking like, okay, we know that we want to move away from that restriction. We know that we don't want users to have to pick that. It's way more intuitive to just say, like, you want to make a post? Pick the picture, the video, or not, enter the text. Like, just tell us what you want to post. Tell us that. We don't need you to, like, pick the type and then go pick other parameters for it. Just tell us what you want to post. It's way simpler. So we know we want that, but the problem is that we're about to go do a big blast out to a newsletter to try and get some new users and trying to figure out, like, another wave of feedback. So we need to figure out what we can do in a very short period of time. And while we like the idea that per piece of content, we should be allowed to figure out that type of post, not the whole topic stream, right? So each piece of content could be picture, video, text, or a combination, instead of the entire thing being of that same type. That's the direction we want to go in, but it's way more work than we can get fit in the immediate term. Which means that as we're refining this onboarding workflow, we're currently making decisions where we're like, we know we're going to have to rewrite this. And it sounds funny, right? Because it's like, why would we go waste the time? And it's like, we have to think the goal of the onboarding is to basically minimize friction for people. And we think we can do better, right? We think we can do better. We think that whole thing I was just explaining, we think that will be something that helps improve onboarding. It helps improve usability of the platform. That's all good. But we're not there yet. We literally cannot just say, oh, well, we'll just wait another couple of weeks until it's done. Because by the time we're done that, there's going to be something else where we're having the exact same conversation. We'll say, oh, well, we should hold off because, like, this other thing, it's not perfect yet. Like, surprise, there's going to be tons of stuff that's not perfect. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we have to keep reminding ourselves that. And as I'm saying this, by the way, there's not like infighting or anything where people are like, no, like, we must do this. Like, we're all agreeing, and it's cool because they become challenging conversations, right? Where we've all worked close together, so I think we're almost always on the same page. But when we're not, it means we get to have really good conversations and say, well, like, explain your perspective to me. Like, I want to understand, because none of us are sitting in these conversations going like, I can't wait to prove myself right. There's no benefit to that, right? Like, we all want the same goal. We want users to get onboarded successfully. We want them to be able to navigate the product easily. That's the goal we all want. So when someone has a different opinion, it's really cool. And I wanted to share this brief example because it was eye-opening for me. And I need a little bit of water here, so give me one moment before I start coughing. So the idea around onboarding currently that I've been thinking is like, we're trying to set users up to have a topic stream. Now, there's like kind of two goals to look at here. One is the goal for the user, and one is the goal for us. And in my head, I've been going, okay, if the goal is to have the user get through onboarding and have a topic stream that can post, I was looking at this onboarding and going, guys, like, I think what's going to happen is that they're going to have this topic stream and they're going to be like, cool, like, I made it, but like, I don't want it. Like, I haven't planned out my content yet. I don't know the schedule I want to post for. Like, I just don't know these things. And when I was thinking about this and we were having a conversation, part of me was pushing back on this, saying, I don't think it's going to work because I think it's addressing the wrong thing. And when we got talking, it was really interesting to me because, like, the goal isn't actually to have someone design their perfect topic stream in the beginning. It's not the goal. The goal is actually to expose them to a bunch of different pieces and then have such a low barrier to entry that now they have a topic stream. Now they can go edit it, they can delete it, they can see what it looks like, they can add more content, disable it, they can do all the stuff with an existing one. And I thought this was, I was like, oh, maybe this is like a dumb comparison, but I want to share it. And one of the other guys was, no, I think it's a perfect example. So I said, okay, in Visual Studio, again, if you're a C# or .NET developer, I said, if I want to go start a new project, so say I want to go make a new Blazor application. I'm not great with Blazor. It's very new for me. And when I go to start, I go through Visual Studio and I say new project, and it basically makes me a sample one. Pardon me. And that sample one has a bunch of code in it that I'm going to delete. Right? It's the same thing. It's not the perfect app. I think there's a cop following me. It's kind of awkward. Oh, someone else is between us. We're good. So it's a very similar thing. Like, you basically get this template that has some stuff in it that you can go tweak and explore and see it in action, and it makes you way more familiar than if someone just said, okay, here's an empty canvas, go start your Blazor project. You'd be like, where do I even start? So even though we have to go delete some stuff, like I don't need the page with the counter on it, like with the button, I don't need that. But I have an example of it. I have an example of a control calling some code that will refresh and stuff like that. Like, cool, I have a working example. Don't need it, don't want it, I'll delete it. But I can see it there. And I feel like our onboarding is that exact thing. It's not making your perfect topic stream, but at the end of it, it's going to have you set up so that you can see how it looks and feels, and that way, when you want to make new ones or edit this one, you have a lot more familiarity. So I thought that was a really cool conversation that came out of us trying to have these discussions about, like, what is the goal of onboarding, right? It seemed like it was a lot more simple on the surface, I guess. But when we got talking about it, I was like, hey, it's different than what I thought originally. And I'm glad that we could have conversations as a group together to chat through that, because it's too easy for people to just be like, nope, like my way. I'm just glad I work with people that aren't like that. So I gotta switch lanes over here. It's a different route than I take for going to work. I'm actually only a couple minutes away, so we'll wrap this one up soon and we'll have another video on the way back. But yeah, I think we got that going on, so we're gonna wrap up that stuff in the next couple nights. I think Thursday night is going to be when the newsletter goes out, and we'll see how much traction we get from that. That'll be cool. It's not our newsletter, so we have no idea on like how many people will click through. If they do click through, how many will try a trial. Maybe we'll get we'll get first paying users out of that. We have a couple people right now that one second, I gotta see where I'm driving here, that we've talked to that are like, they're getting ready to kind of get on board as paying users, which is cool. It's in a weird spot because we're like, there's trials, we can extend them. We'd rather just extend to people so they can keep feeling confident in what's going on. And then we just want to prove that people see the value in it and that they would be willing to pay for it. And to be clear, it's like, if someone was going to pay us $20 a month or $100 a month, that $20 or $100, whatever that dollar amount is, that's not going to change whether or not we can sustain running it, right? Like, we can keep going, but if we keep trying to get users on board and the roadblock ends up being like, I don't want to pay for this, then we're either not solving a problem or we're not presenting a solution that people, at least the way it's presented, they find value in it, right? It could be really not a problem, or we're doing a bad job presenting it. So that for us is the biggest thing coming up, which is, do people see value? Will they pay for it? The actual dollar amount from one person, from 5 people, it's not going to be It's not like, oh, we can go retire or like whatever. It's nothing like that. So we would much rather just make sure people are happy, making sure that they see the value, and at least getting that feedback from them. Because again, if someone's like, yeah, I'll keep using the product as long as it's free, like keep extending my trial, but I don't want to pay for it, then it's not to be like a jackass to them. We don't just want to say, well, screw you, we're turning off the trial. But it's telling us like, it's a challenge they have, but not a big enough problem that they're willing to pay for it. So like the viability from a business perspective becomes a little bit more challenging. And if that's the case, if we keep doing this for a while and we're like, hey, no users, even once we're iterating on the feedback, if users are like, we just don't want to pay for this, then we'll can it. Now, the difference is that I need this to live on, but I only need the back-end service for it. So Brand Ghost is, regardless, it's never going to be something that dies as long as I'm making content. So it's cool, it's got that going for it. But again, if we find that after a while of doing this, we haven't talked about like a deadline, but if we find that for a while people are just like, no, then we either pivot, we can reuse the technology or something, or just go try something else. So I think that's where we're at. I think I'm coming up to the doctor's office right here, so I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I will see you folks very soon. Take care.